Hey guys, it's Blake, and today we're going to be going through some bands that I would recommend checking out this summer on the Vans Warped Tour. Earlier this week, the full lineup for the tour was announced, along with each stage the bands would be playing on. The purpose of this video is to really just go through each stage and give you 5 bands that I think would be worth your time this summer when you go to the tour. In the description below, you'll find a Spotify playlist with songs from each band I talked about on here, so you can check out their music and see if they're for you or not. But I'd like to do a little quick breakdown of the stages. This year, the Journey stages are going to be your main stages, so there's going to be the left foot and right foot stage, and on those stages you're going to find mostly the bigger pop punk and post-hardcore bands. Next we have the Monster Energy stages, which this year are split into a north side and south side stage, where you'll find most of your heavier bands on the tour. Next we have the Cyclops and Sidon stages, which are kind of replacing like the Tilly stage and the Domo stage, which is kind of like appeared in the past before on Warped. And on this you'll find a pretty big mix of bands that are all just kind of like mid-level, not big enough for main stage, not first starting out. And lastly, this year is going to be a new stage called the Full Sail stage, which is kind of replacing the Ernie Ball and the Kevin Says stage, which is where the smaller bands were just trying to get their start on Warped Tour. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, because Warped Tour is one of my favorite things to do every summer, and it really helped me get into a ton of new bands, so if I could spread some of that around, that's awesome. So I really hope you enjoy this. So we're going to start off with the Journey stages, and the first band I chose that I think you should definitely check out is Sum 41, who's a punk rock band from Ajax, Canada, who recently got back together after a 4-year hiatus. I would definitely check them out if you're into bands like NoFX, The Offspring, and Bad Religion. They really have a raw punk tone that I really love. Some songs I would check out are In Too Deep, Still Waiting, and Underclass Hero. And if you haven't heard Fat Lip, you probably shouldn't be going to Warped Tour at all. But they're probably going to be drawing the biggest crowds of the entire tour just because they're fresh off that 4-year hiatus. They have that huge throwback factor because everyone kind of grew up with them, and I really want to see them because I haven't seen them before at all, and I need to hear Fat Lip once before I die. Next we have Issues, who are a post-hardcore / nu metal band from Atlanta, Georgia, signed to Rise Records, who are putting out their new album sometime this year called Headspace. I would check these guys out if you're into IC Stars or like Abandon All Ships. And some songs I would check out are Mad at Myself, Never Lose Your Flames, and Hooligans. They're really great because they have this great mix of like R&B and really heavy metalcore, and the dual vocals just flow together really well. Tyler and Michael have amazing chemistry, and it's something really great to watch live. Next we have State Champs, who are a pop punk band from Albany, New York, signed to Pure Noise Records, who just recently put out their second album, Around the World and Back, in late 2015. I would check these guys out if you're into bands like Story So Far, Real Friends, or Seaway. They have a really great raw pop punk tone. Some songs I would check out are Critical, Hard to Please, and Secrets. And they're really a great band to see live because Derek probably has the best voice in pop punk, and they're definitely the catchiest pop punk band on the tour. Next we have the Maine from Scottsdale, Arizona, who are really an indie rock band who are independent currently. They recently put out American Candy in 2015 that really showed how they matured their sound, and some other songs I would check out are Girls Do What They Want, Some Days, and Same Suit, Different Tie. I would really check these guys out because they really developed into a really mature band where they've really taken their like neon rock influences from back in the day when they were associated with like All Time Low and Boys Like Girls into something that's really innovative in the scene. Lastly, on these stages I would check out the Story So Far, who are a pop punk band from Walnut Creek, California, and are also signed to Pure Noise Records. They recently just put out their self-titled record in early 2015, and if you're into bands like Newfound Glory, State Champs, or Citizen, I would definitely give these guys a listen. Some of my favorites from them are Nerve, Things I Can't Change, and The Glass. And they'll probably have the most high-energy pop-punk crowd on the tour, and for the most part they have a really great live sound and are one of the best pop-punk bands I've ever seen live in terms of just sound quality. Next we have the Cyclops and Sidon stages, and the first band I would definitely look into off those are Chunk No Captain Chunk, who are an easycore band from Paris, France, currently signed to Fearless Records. They recently put out their third album, Get Lost Find Yourself, in 2015, and I would check these guys out if you're into bands like 4 Year Strong, Set Your Goals, or A Day to Remember. They really bring together the pop and the heavy into a great product. Some songs I would check out that really span their discography are The Other Line, In Friends We Trust, and Captain Blood. If you can get past the French accents in the songs, they're a great band with a ton of catchy choruses and really heavy breakdowns. They're really the epitome of modern easycore. Next, I would check out Waterparks, who are a pop punk band from Houston, Texas, currently signed to Equal Vision Records, and just put out their first signed EP called Cluster in early 2016. I would check these guys out if you're into Rome, Every Avenue, or Forever the Sickest Kids. And some songs I would check out are Pink, I'm in Natural Blue, and New Wave. I've never seen these guys live. In fact, I just recently got into them, but they have this great late 2000s, very fun pop punk tone that I've kind of been missing out on for a while. Next, I would check out Knuckle Puck, who are a pop punk band from Chicago, Illinois, signed to Rise Records, and recently just put out their debut album, Copacetic, in the summer of 2015. I would check these guys out if you're into bands like Real Friends, Bonfires, or Home Safe, and some songs I would check out are Why Would You Care, Oak Street, and Pretense. I've seen them a bunch of times before, and they're easily my favorite pop punk band to see live. You can tell they really love being on stage because every member of the band is just constantly moving around and getting really into the music. It just makes the listening experience in the crowd so much better when you see the performer doing the same. Next, I would check out Against the Current, who are a pop rock band that kind of leans more to the pop side, from Poughkeepsie, New York, signed to Fueled by Ramen Records. Their debut album, In Our Bones, is coming out sometime this year, and I would check them out if you're into bands like Paramore, We Are the In Crowd, or Tonight Alive. Some songs I would check out are Running with the Wild Things, Fireproof, and Outsiders. Their lead singer, Chrissy Costanza, has like the best female-fronted voice in alternative music, and the music tends to lean towards more of the pop side, like I said, but it really fits well in the work demographic. They remind me a lot of Echo Smith as well. I've been following them for a while just because they're kind of local to me, and they've been absolutely killing it, and they really deserve this opportunity to really get out to a bigger audience. Lastly, on these stages, I would check out Rome, who are a pop punk band from Eastbourne, England, signed to Hopeless Records. They'd recently put out their debut album, Backbone, earlier this year, and they kind of have a similar sound to Neck Deep, Waster, and Handguns. Some songs I would check out off that debut album they just put out are Dead Weight, Hopeless Case, and Warning Sign. They're not the greatest live band, but someone I would definitely see if I just had some free time. They're kind of also hard to understand because they have really, really heavy British accents, but a lot of their songs have a ton of energy, and I could really see that translating well to Warped Tour. Next, we have the Monster Energy stage, which is really more and more the heavier bands play, and the first band I would check out on this stage is Cruel Hand, who are a hardcore punk band from Portland, Maine, signed to Hopeless Records. They put out their last album called The Negatives in 2014, and I would check these guys out if you're into bands like Terror, Trash Talk, or Turnstile. They really have that late 90s hardcore feel to them. Songs I would check out from them are Heat, Cheap Life, and Vigilant Citizen. They have this really old school feel to them, and I saw them with Neck Deep back in 2014, and they absolutely killed it. I definitely think they're one of the best hardcore bands out right now and are really underappreciated. The next band I would check out is Every Time I Die, who are another hardcore punk band from Buffalo, New York, signed to Epitaph Records, who just put out their last album, From Parts Unknown, in 2014. I would check these guys out if you're into bands like August Burns Red, Backtrack, or Norma Jean. And some songs I really love from them are Decaying with the Boys, Bolorama, and The New Black. I saw these guys on their headline tour with Counterparts and Real Friends earlier in 2015, and they were easily the tightest, heavier band I've ever seen. Keith's vocals were literally straight out of the recording, and the guitars were crisp, the bass was where it needed to be in the mix, and the drums were phenomenal, and they were huge. They're really a great live band. The next band I would check out is Gideon, who are a Christian metal band from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, signed to Equal Vision Records. They put out their last album, Calloused, in 2014, and they kind of have a sound similar to artists like The Ghost Inside, Texas in July, and War of Ages. Some songs I would check out from them are the title track of their last album, Calloused, Bad Blood, and Survive, which features Beartooth vocalist Caleb Shomo. These guys will effectively tear down Warped because they're easily one of the heaviest bands on the tour. If there's going to be a band that like someone dies at this year, it's going to be Gideon or probably Whitechapel. Next, I would check out Vanna, who is a hardcore band from Boston, Massachusetts, signed to Pure Noise Records. The last original material they put out was Void in 2014, and they kind of have a similar sound to artists like Stray from the Path and Beartooth. Some of my favorite songs from them are Trashmouth, Toxic Pretender, and Scarlet Shroud. And I've been really going to Vanna shows since I was like 13, and they've never really disappointed, and they absolutely kill it every time I see them. When they play the Massachusetts stage, I'm expecting like absolute chaos to be going around like all around me. People always go off for them. The last band from the stage I would definitely check out, and it seems like kind of an anomaly coming in, is Bullet for My Valentine. who is a metal band from Wales signed to Columbia Records. They last put out Venom in 2015, and they have a similar sound to like Avenged Sevenfold, Young Guns, and Killswitch Engage. They're kind of really only on this tour because Mayhem Festival isn't like a thing anymore, and that's kind of the same case with Atreyu. But I used to be super into these guys when I loved metal back when I was like 12 in like 2007. But they've matured really well, and it's really surprising to see them on this lineup. It's definitely going to be an interesting set, especially if they play a lot of their old stuff like Tears Don't Fall and Hand of Blood. The last stage we go through is the Full Sail stage, and for the first band I selected Wage War, who are a metalcore band from Ocala, Florida, who's currently signed to Hopeless Records. They recently just put out their album Blueprints in early 2016, and they kind of have a similar sound to like Parkway Drive, Architects, and the Amity Affliction. Some songs I would check out from them are Youngblood, 21, and The River. These guys are another band I recently got into, and they remind me a lot of early 2010s metalcore, like with Mice and Men and like Attack, with some like modern twist thrown in. They're definitely a band I won't really make a priority for myself, but if I have some time when there's nothing going on, I will definitely check them out. The next band I picked was Broadside, who are a pop-punk band from Richmond, Virginia, currently signed to Victory Records. They put out their debut album Old Bones in 2015, and they kind of have a similar sound to bands like Such Gold, Old, Turnover, and Forever Came Calling, and some of my favorite songs from them are Coffee Talk, Playing in Traffic, and Storyteller. I've seen them a ton of times in the past year, and they have really great stage presence as a whole band. I can definitely see them blowing up in 2016, and this tour is only going to help them get there. They're really one of the more fun pop-punk bands on the list. Next I've selected Like Pacific, who are a pop-punk band from Toronto, Canada, signed to Pure Noise Records, and just put out their debut album, Distant Like You Asked. They have a really similar sound to bands like Knucklepuck, State Champs, and Can't Swim, and some songs I really love from them are Richmond, Shine Drive, and Worthless Case. I just recently saw them on the AP tour with State Champs and Neck Deep, and they were easily my favorite band on that tour. Their music takes elements of so many genres other than pop punk, and that really was what makes them great and what makes them stand out. And I really hope they get big this year because they deserve it. Next we have Capsize, who are kind of a thrash/hardcore band from Los Angeles, California, currently signed to Equal Vision Records, and just put out The Angst in My Veins in 2014. They have a very similar sound to bands like Counterparts, Knocked Loose, and 100th, and some of my favorites of them are You Can't Come Home the Same, Pale, and This Song Made Me Think of You. I actually got into these guys recently just because I constantly saw them on my Tumblr feed, and they're one of the better bands I've gotten into recently. Sometimes I'm not really a fan of the screaming vocal tone their vocalist uses, but they pull it together well with their clean vocalist. They're one of the more dynamic hardcore bands out today, along with Counterparts, and I really love that. The last band I would check out is Old Wounds, who are a hardcore band from New Jersey, signed to Good Fight Entertainment, and last put out The Suffering Spirit in 2015. They remind me a lot of artists like Code Orange, The Deftones, and Kublai Khan, and some songs I would check out from them are On Leather Wings, The Secret at the Center of the World, and Heaven is a Memory. This band is like stupid heavy, and they just have a really raw sound. I'm going to guess they're not going to have a ton of people at their set for like basically every single date, but I will definitely be into it, and if there's nothing going on that requires my attention more, I will definitely be there because they have a great sound that I really love. After going through everything, kind of weighing what each band brings to the table, my priorities for this tour are probably going to be Sum 41, The Story So Far, Like Pacific, Cruel Hand, Capsize, and State Champs. However, I'm going to try to see as many sets as possible, which usually is around 10 to 12 bands for me at a typical Warped Tour date. But I hope you enjoyed hearing about some of my favorite bands on this year's tour. I would love to know who you want to check out in the comments below, and thank you for watching and checking out the video.